Hey, hey, hey. Christina here with Frequency Fridays. Welcome back. So, as we continue on with our series on the brain, the rest of this series is going to be in the presentation mode because visuals are required. So, let's get into the power of the brain. And so, throughout the remainder of this series, you are going to learn about understanding the brain structures and functions. We're going to talk about deciphering the language of the brain. We're going to explore the role of the mental router, delve into the limbic system and limbic loops. And then we're going to recognize the concept of amygdala hijack. And then I've been reminded about this scripture a lot lately since I've been working on the brain series. And so I just wanted to put it on here and read it to us. So I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. And that's found in Psalms. As I dig into understanding more about how I was designed to function, I'm really in awe and wonder. And this scripture is really hitting me in a new way as it relates to I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Again, because we are made of the same stuff. And so I went and looked up the word fearfully. And out of all of the definitions, only one of them was positive. All of them were had a negative connotation. So to be great or an extreme degree, very exceptional. But I find it interesting that that word um, holds a definition of both perspectives. All right, and then our learning objectives. We're going to recognize the structures and the functions of the brain. We're going to learn about the brain's communication through frequency waves. We're going to utilize the limbic system to enhance our everyday life because I'm all about practicality. We're going to identify when the brain is striving to ensure safety and comfort because that is its job. And we really want to, learn how to identify that so that we can make space for that and not be hard on ourselves, when those times arise, when it's in conflict with our growth plan. And then you can perform or you can observe a brain dissection to gain some practical awareness. So let's get into the structures and the functions. So the structure of the brain is a control center for the nervous system. So let's, just get clear with some definitions. What is structure? Structure is what it is made up of, what comprises the thing, in this case, the brain. Function, what does it do? What is its role and responsibility? How is it designed to operate? Um, this is an interesting um, piece of information. The brain uses about 20% of the body's energy, even though it only makes up about 2% of the body's weight. It is constantly in communication and in action. So this journey began for me probably around 2018ish when I began to ask myself, what am I made of? Um, So, all of us here are all about frequency. We're all about energy. Either we know a lot about that or we know very little about that. I think the whole spectrum is here. Um, but I love the idea of, I've always been a person who wants to get to the root of things. And as I have, I've come to the place of understanding that getting to the molecules, getting to the cellular health is to the root solution. Everything else is a band aid. You've got to get to the frequency, right? Um, and that is because we are not mechanical beings, we are living beings. We are self organizing, we are self writing, we are self healing. Think about conception and how two um, cells come together to create one entire being. There's no manual for that, there's no instruction book for that, but the cells know how to organize themselves. I just find that to be extremely fascinating, that an atom can turn into molecules, and a molecule can turn into a cell, and a cell can turn into a structure. As we're talking here, the brain, and the brain works hand in hand with our nervous system. And so I love this image here that, kind of depicts how the control center, what it looks, what does it look like underneath the skin and the muscles and things? How is all this information traveling through our nervous system? All right, so let's get into the functions of the brain. So we got various lobes here. You've got the frontal lobe, and the frontal lobe is responsible for our executive functions, decision making, problem solving, planning, controlling emotions. It also plays a role in expressing personality and reasoning. We've got our parietal lobe there in the yellow. It's responsible for processing sensory information such as touch, temperature, and pain. We've got our occipital lobe, which is in the back there, the orange. And this lobe is responsible for processing visual information, interpreting shapes, colors, and motion. And then we've got our cerebellum, which is there in the back. Um, Same color as the brain stem. They are connected. And so the cerebellum coordinates voluntary movements, balance, posture, motor learning, and fine motor control. And then the brainstem regulates essential functions such as breathing, heart rate, and sleep cycles, while facilitating communication between the brain and the body. And then lastly, we've got our temporal lobe, which is responsible for processing auditory information, storing memories, and facilitating language understanding. And then, you know, let's, dig a little bit deeper in how communication is functioning, how this control processing center works. So you got the motor cortex, which lies right on the edge of the frontal lobe, right before the parietal lobe. And on the parietal lobe, right at the edge, you've got the somatic sensory cortex. And so these two things are working simultaneously. Sensory nerves are sending messages, through the brainstem up into the somatic sensory cortex, um, to decipher what to do with this information, what to sort out the information. And then the motor cortex is funneling that information out into the motor nerves to instruct the body on what to do, how to do it, why to do it. So there is a massive amount of communication happening nonstop all day long. It just amazes me. Um, and so I love this image here where it's the side of the parietal lobe and and the frontal lobe, where the motor cortex and the somatosensory cortex live. And you can see how the body relates to the brain cells. And there's so many sensory nerves are allocated to the hand, to the little finger, the ring finger, the middle finger, the index, and the thumb. Um, our hands bring in a lot of information. And then we've got the thalamus that sits right in the center of the brain, and that is equivalent to a router. And so it is getting all of this information. It sits right on top of the brain stem as information is coming up through the spinal cord, and it has to decipher what to do with this information. Where is this information to go? And it routes it out to the necessary area of the brain to manage function. And then we've got the hypothalamus that sits right underneath the thalamus. I remember I would often hear I heard someone once say, put your tongue up against the roof of your mouth. And I couldn't figure out why they said that. I was like, what for what? What's the purpose of that? Um, so now I come to find out that the hypothalamus sits right there above the roof of your mouth and your brain, and it maintains homeostasis. So it's the part of your brain that wants to, we're talking about that we're a living organism, right? It is the aspect that maintains balance. It seeks balance. It wants prosper. It wants the system to be prosperous. It wants the system to thrive. Our living system. Um, so again, I am overtime again, y'all. So let me get this complete. So our brain cells work to arrange information to uphold homeostasis, and it's always seeking to thrive. Our brain is a central processing center, and it is a beautiful gift given to you by the creator of the heavens and the earth. And I hope that this lesson brought you some value. And I hope that you will see yourself as an energetic tool and decide how you will use your energy to uplift humanity. Have fun with your frequency tools. Take care. Bye bye.